Oh, my dears, let me tell you something. There's a time to rise, a time to kneel, a time to walk with your troubles and let the Lord carry your feet. But there's also a time, yes, a sacred time, when God expects you to stand up and show reverence. You see, the Bible don't whisper. It don't tiptoe around the truth. It speaks straight and it speaks strong. And tucked inside its ancient pages, between psalms of praise and proverbs of wisdom, is a quiet caution. Don't come to the throne of the Most High laid back, casual, careless. Now, don't you misunderstand me. God will meet you in your hospital bed. He'll kneel down beside the weary soldier. He'll comfort the woman whose body is too broken to rise. He is mercy. He is compassion. He is ever present. But let me ask you something. What kind of love shows up before royalty lying down? My darling, sit with me for a spell. Let me speak to the soul inside your soul. Let me cradle the heart that beats behind your ribs and whisper a truth so simple, so sacred, it just might change the way you see prayer forever. You see, there's a way some folks approach God that breaks my heart. Not because God isn't merciful. Oh, he is more merciful than the ocean is wide. Not because God won't hear us in our weakest hour. Oh no, he hears the trembling breath of the widow and the groaning of the dying man. But because we've made our prayers too soft, too shallow, too sleepy. We've turned the sacred into the routine. Somewhere along the way, in our comfort and convenience, we began to treat the Almighty like a bedtime story. Like a little whisper under the sheets to keep nightmares away. And we forgot, child, that we're not just talking to a warm feeling. We're not speaking to thin air. We are standing before a throne. A heavenly throne! One paved in righteousness, wrapped in majesty, and guarded by angels who cover their faces in holy awe. Yet here we are, lying down. One leg under the blanket, one hand holding a phone, and our lips barely forming the words, God, thank you for today. Beloved, that is not reverence. That is routine. There is a quiet warning in this. A still, small voice from the pages of the Word saying, be careful how you come before me. Be mindful, be intentional. Come into my presence with honor. Because, my dear, you wouldn't walk into the office of a king in your pajamas. You wouldn't recline in your boss's chair during a meeting. You wouldn't FaceTime your earthly father while half asleep and call that connection. But we do it with God. We let our tiredness excuse our laziness. We let our beds become our altars, not out of necessity, but out of habit. Now let me be clear, clearer than the bell that tolls at dawn. God is full of grace. Yes, he is. If your body is broken, if your limbs are frail, if the only posture you can offer is a lying one, God knows. He understands. He is there beside you, closer than breath, catching your whispers and carrying them like rose petals to heaven's gates. But when your strength is intact, when your body is able, but your will is weak, that's when the warning comes. Don't give God your leftovers. Don't offer him the crumbs of your day, the murmurings of a sleepy tongue, the flickering flame of half-lit faith. He deserves your best, not because he needs it, but because your soul needs to remember who he is. Let me remind you, darling, this is the same God who walked in the fire with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. This is the God who split the Red Sea in two and turned a shepherd's rod into a serpent. He is not small. He is not tame. He is not waiting to be fit into your schedule. He is God. The Psalms say, serve the Lord with reverence and rejoice with trembling. Trembling, honey. That's the soul's way of saying, I know who I'm talking to. When Jesus prayed, he did so with such agony that his sweat became drops of blood. He didn't whisper a quick request as he reclined. He didn't check a box. He poured out. He gave himself. He met the Father in truth and in agony, and he did it on his knees. So I ask you now, what posture is your prayer in? And I'm not just talking about your body. I'm asking about your heart. Is your heart kneeling? Is your spirit standing tall in reverence, or is it slouching in indifference? When we approach God like He's an afterthought, we rob ourselves of His fullness. When we speak to Him as though we are barely awake, we miss the fire. And when we lie down out of laziness rather than need, we signal to heaven that we'd rather be comfortable than consecrated.
Oh, but when you rise,
When you sit up in the dark hours of morning, when you pull yourself from slumber and whisper, "Here I am, Lord," you shake something. You stir something in the heavens. You say with your body what your soul dares to cry, "I honor you." God doesn't need the posture of your spine. He needs the posture of your heart. But child, don't you know the two are often married? When your body rises, your spirit follows. When your knees bend, your pride breaks. When your hands lift, your soul sings. So let us not grow lazy in our loving. Let us not pray like God is background noise. Let us come to Him awake, alert, alive. Not with a yawn, but with a yearning. Not with a whisper lost in cotton sheets, but with a cry that climbs the staircase of heaven. You are speaking to the one who formed the galaxies, the one who knitted you together in your mother's womb, the one who heard your grandmother's prayers before you were even born. He is worthy, worthy of your stillness, worthy of your silence, worthy of your posture and your praise. So tonight, before you lie down, stand up, even if only for a moment. Stand up and say, "God, I honor you with this prayer. I am not too tired to recognize your majesty." And when you do lie down in the peace that comes from reverence, not in the habit of routine. Because when you treat God as holy child, He meets you with His glory. And there is nothing, no pillow, no dream, no rest sweeter than the presence of a God who knows you stood for Him before you slept. Now come close, child. Lean in with the ears of your spirit. And let me tell you something that time and truth have both taught me. The way you position yourself before God says something about who you believe He is. Yes, it does. You may think it's just your knees, just your back, just a body bending forward. But darling, I am here to tell you the Bible doesn't waste words, and it certainly doesn't waste postures. When the Holy Word describes men and women kneeling, bowing, standing, or falling face first before the Lord, it's not to fill space on a page. It's to teach us something eternal. Moses, the man who saw God's glory dance across a mountain, did not approach Him with swagger. No. When he stood on holy ground, the first thing he did was remove his shoes. Not because his feet were dirty, but because his soul recognized the weight of where he was standing. That man, Moses, knew that God was not like Pharaoh. He was not a man, not a ruler of flesh and bone. He was I am, the unshakable, the fire in the bush, the thunder in the mountain, the whisper in the wind. So he bowed. He removed. He lowered himself, because the higher your view of God, the lower you place yourself before Him. Now, some might say, "But sister, God looks at the heart," and you'd be right. But sugar, don't you know that sometimes what's going on in the heart spills over into how you hold your body? Yes, sometimes your knees know what your mouth cannot speak. Sometimes your hands lift because your soul is reaching for heaven. Sometimes your spine bends because your pride finally broke. The Bible is full of such stories. Go on and flip the pages of your good book. You'll see Hannah pouring out her anguish at the temple steps. Her lips moved, her voice trembled, but her body stayed grounded. She was not pacing or lounging. She was laid bare in posture and in prayer. That woman knelt before the Lord of hosts, and God answered her cry with a child called Samuel, a prophet of power and purpose. And Daniel, my Lord, when he knew his prayers might cost him his life, what did he do? He didn't whisper from bed, didn't mumble between yawns. He opened his windows, faced Jerusalem, and knelt down 3 times a day. That's discipline. That's posture with purpose. That's a man who knew that bending his knees before God was more powerful than standing tall before kings. You see, the devil don't mind if you pray while lying down, if that means you're not really present. If your prayer is just a formality, just something you do before sleep takes over, then it has no fire, no force, no faith. But oh, when you kneel, when your bones press into the floor, when your back curves not from weariness, but from wonder, when your hands are not to stretch, but to surrender, then, child, the heavens take notice, because the body speaks. It says, Lord, I am beneath you. It says, I acknowledge your majesty. It says, I am your servant, not your equal. And don't think for 1 second that God ignores that kind of posture. No, child, he honors it. He responds to it. The Psalms speak of lifting hands. The Gospels show Jesus falling on his face in prayer. Revelation tells of angels bowing in ceaseless worship. Why? Because humility invites holiness. And I don't know about you, but I want the kind of life where God is welcome to walk through the door and sit with me. But not if I'm lying down out of laziness. No, sir. Not if I treat him like a last-minute thought or a ritual on my way to sleep. You want God to move, then move yourself off the bed, onto your knees, off the couch, into a prayer closet, out of routine, into reverence. Now don't get me wrong, darling. I am not here to put God in a box. He's met people in caves and in cisterns, in prisons and palaces, on dusty roads and in fiery furnaces. But when he shows up, people don't stay standing or lying down out of comfort. No, they bow, they kneel, they fall. Because when glory walks in, the body can't help but respond. It's not just about religion. It's about reverence. It's not just posture. It's proclamation. You're proclaiming with every bend in your knee, every fold of your hands, every bowed head, you are God and I am yours. In the old church, they used to say, if you can't stand, wave your hand. If you can't wave, nod your head. And if you can't do that, just let your spirit agree. But baby, they were saying something deep. Do all you can to show God you're present. You're listening, you're humbled. Don't let your body betray your spirit. Now I know we're living in an age where ease is glorified, where pray on the go is preached more than be still and know. But there's something sacred about slowing down, about kneeling on hardwood floors or bending low in the stillness of morning. It trains the soul. It tames the flesh. It reminds you you are not in control. You are not the center. God is. And when you come before him with that kind of attitude, child, you better believe the atmosphere shifts. Mountains move. Angels descend. Peace flows like oil from heaven's throne. Because when a soul kneels, the spirit soars. So don't pray lazy. Don't pray distracted. Don't pray in a posture that matches your television habits. Pray like you're meeting the Most High. Pray like he's worthy of your knees and your time. Pray like you know the weight of who he is. And if your body can't kneel, let your spirit bow. Let your heart get low. Let your thoughts stand at attention. Let your inner world rise in worship even if your legs can't carry you to the floor. But if you can kneel, then kneel. If you can lift your hands, then lift them. If you can stand in honor, then stand tall and strong. Because when you honor God with your posture, you echo the saints of old. You join with the angels. You kneel with Daniel. You bow with Moses. You worship with the elders in Revelation. You remind yourself and heaven that this isn't just prayer, this is holy ground. And child, on holy ground, we don't lie down in comfort. We bow, we kneel, we show him with every fiber of our being, you are worthy. Come close, my dear. Bring your tender heart and your listening ears, for I have a truth to share that is both ancient and evergreen. A truth that trembles on the edge of silence and thunder. A truth about the body and the soul and how the two, like old lovers, dance together in sacred rhythm. Now we live in a world that wants to divide everything. It says your mind is one thing, your spirit another, your body something else entirely. But oh, how wrong that is. The body and the soul, child, are braided together like the roots of an old oak tree, each one feeding the other, each one feeling what the other holds. And when it comes to prayer, my sweet, your body becomes the stage on which your soul performs its most intimate ballad. You may not think so. You may believe your words alone are enough, that your heart is all that matters. But I tell you this, not to shame, not to scold, but to awaken something deep within you. The posture of your body often reveals the posture of your soul. Don't believe me? Then let's take a walk through the Bible. Let us trace the footprints of those who came before us, those who knew the gravity of standing before the Most High. Look how often the scriptures mention kneeling, bowing, raising hands, falling prostrate. These are not coincidences. These are not customs. These are cries. Silent cries of the body that say what the heart is often too shattered or too awestruck to speak. When Job lost everything, he didn't just weep. He didn't just murmur a prayer. The good book tells us he fell to the ground and worshipped. Now why would a man who had just buried his children, lost his wealth, and been struck by illness choose to fall to the ground? Because the soul needed the body to say, I still trust you. Because the ache was too deep for standing. Because sometimes worship must come from the dust. And then there's Jesus in the garden. Oh, yes, let us not forget Gethsemane. The weight of the world pressed down upon him like a great stone. And what did he do? He didn't lie back and sigh. He didn't sit comfortably against a tree. He fell on his face, God in flesh, the light of the world, down on his knees with sweat like blood. Why? Because his body knew the moment was holy. Because the anguish inside him poured out, not just through tears and words, but through a trembling body laid bare before the Father. You see, the posture speaks. When a man kneels, he is saying, I surrender. When a woman bows, she is saying, I reverence you. When a child lifts their hands, they are saying, I need you. Oh, don't tell me your body doesn't matter. Because I've seen the difference between a man praying with his eyes closed and a man praying on his knees with his face in his hands. I've heard the prayers of a woman with her feet tucked under the covers. And I've heard the prayers of a woman who rose before dawn, wrapped her robe around her soul, and bent low over a Bible. And while God is gracious to hear them all, child, the ones that come with posture carry a power the others rarely know. Not because God is far, no, but because we are far. You see, we are the ones who need to be shaken awake. We are the ones who need our flesh to follow our faith. We are the ones who drift, who grow lazy, who speak holy words with sleepy hearts. And when you move your body into a position of worship, you're telling your whole self, wake up, this is sacred ground. Don't you know that posture breaks patterns? You may be anxious, but when you kneel, your soul remembers peace. You may be proud, but when you bow, your pride slips off like a loose garment. You may be tired, but when you stand up and lift your hands, strength flows in from heaven like a rushing wind. It is no small thing to change your posture. In fact, sometimes it's everything. There are seasons in life when the only prayer you can offer is a tear and a bent knee. There are days when your heart is numb, but your hands lift anyway, and somehow the lifting awakens the soul. There are moments when you're too broken to form a sentence, but your face pressed against the floor tells God everything, and He sees it. He sees the bend in your back, the ache in your knees, the shaking of your hands, and child, He honors it. Because He knows that you didn't have to kneel. He knows you didn't have to stand. He knows the weight you carried just to get up and say, Here I am, Lord. And oh, how heaven responds to such posture. The angels hush, the Spirit stirs. The room, no matter how small or ordinary, becomes a temple, and your very body becomes a vessel, carrying reverence, carrying surrender, carrying love. I am not saying posture is a performance. No, not at all. God is not moved by showmanship. but he is moved by sincerity. And sometimes sincerity looks like a soul on its knees. Sometimes it looks like tired hands still lifting. Sometimes it looks like a trembling body standing tall in the face of fear and saying, "I believe you, Lord." So don't ignore the sacred dance between flesh and spirit. Let your body reflect your awe. Let your hands speak your hunger. Let your knees bear the weight of your worship. Because when you allow your posture to align with your prayer, you step into something ancient, some holy, something powerful. You step into the rhythm of every prophet, every psalmist, every humble heart that ever dared to come before the throne of grace. And you too will find that when the body bows low, the spirit rises high. So bend, beloved. Bow, rise. Let your whole self say what your mouth cannot. For in the language of worship, sometimes silence is loudest when the soul kneels and the body follows. My dear heart, sit beside me now, and let's talk gently and honestly about something that far too many overlook in the sacred dance of prayer. Let's speak not of thunder, but of the whisper, of those soft moments when we let God become an afterthought instead of the Almighty. Let us speak with reverence and with truth about what happens when we offer Him not our first, not our best, but our leftovers. Yes, child, I mean it just like it sounds. We offer our Creator, the one who wakes the sun and cradles the stars. We offer Him the final flickers of our day, the closing credits of our minds, the murmured words half swallowed by sleep. And then we wonder why our spirits feel dry, why our prayers lack power, why we walk through life as though we're half awake. Now, don't get me wrong. God is merciful. He is kinder than we can imagine. He hears the prayers that rise like smoke from broken hearts at midnight. He listens when we whisper to Him from our weary beds. He is the God who never sleeps, who neither slumbers nor grows tired. But that mercy, child, that divine patience, it is no excuse for our apathy. Because, baby, love and honor are not the same thing. You can love someone and still take them for granted. You can love God and still treat Him like an option. And that is what we do when we only pray as we drift off to sleep. That's what we do when our prayers are penned with yawns and ended with snoring. We treat the holy like the habitual. We treat the divine like the disposable. And we say, with our actions, if not our words, God, you can have what's left. But He is not a God of leftovers. He is the God of first fruits, the God of fresh oil, the God who asks for the beginning of your day, not the end of your energy. Remember Cain and Abel. One brought an offering of excellence, the very best of his flock. The other brought just some of his harvest, just a portion, just whatever was convenient, and God, in His righteousness, accepted one and rejected the other. Not because He needed the lamb or the grain, but because He knew the heart behind the hand. So let me ask you, child, what are you offering Him? Are you giving Him your full attention? Are you rising to meet Him with joy and focus? Or are you murmuring prayers with one eye closed and the other halfway in a dream? You see, when we love someone deeply, we don't give them our scraps. When you love your mama, you don't just send her a message when you remember. When you love your child, you don't wait until you're half asleep to listen to their stories. And when you love your Lord, you don't wait until your body is too tired and your mind too distracted to give Him reverence. Yet that is what we do. We slide under the covers, fluff the pillow, and speak His name with lips heavy from a day full of everything but Him. We pray with the TV humming in the background, with texts still unread, with tomorrow's worries already knocking at the door. And then we say we don't feel close to Him. We wonder why our prayers feel dry, why our soul feels starved. But oh, child, you cannot expect Him to pour down rain when you only lift your cup in the dark. He deserves better. Not because He's arrogant, but because He is worthy. Worthy of your full attention. Worthy of your clear mind. Worthy of the sunrise and not just the sunset. We spend our best energy on everyone else. We give the boss our punctuality. We give friends our laughter. We give social media our focus, and then we crawl into bed and hand God the tired sigh of a worn-out soul. That, beloved, is not love. That is duty. That is habit. That is the shell of intimacy without its fire. And it is not what God desires. He wants to walk with you in the cool of the morning, like he did with Adam. He wants to speak to you before the world has spoken its noise. He wants the part of you that is alert, alive, and ready to listen, because prayer, my sweet, is not a lullaby. It is a lifeline. It is not something to lull you to sleep. It is something to awaken you. And if we treat it like a bedtime ritual, if we treat God like a gentle tap on the shoulder instead of the sovereign of our soul, then we reduce the holy to habit. We shrink the sacred down to something we do when there's nothing left to give. But child, you were made for more than that. You were made to rise and seek. You were made to worship with your whole self. You were made to give him your best, not your leftovers. So I urge you, take a moment and reflect. Have your prayers become routine? Has God become the last thing on your list instead of the first? Are you offering him crumbs when you once offered a feast? Then rise, beloved. Start your day with him. Give him the sunrise. Give him your first thoughts, your first breath, your first moment of stillness. Let him set the tone before the world gets a chance to twist your spirit. And if night comes and you're weary, if the day has drained you, then kneel anyway. But kneel in reverence, not in routine. Let your soul speak, not just your mouth. Let your love shine through your posture, your presence, your attention, because he is not just the God of your sleep. He is the God of your breath, the God of your beginning and your end. And if you give him your best, he will pour out his. So give him the first, not the last, the gold, not the scraps, the flame, not the embers, because God, my darling, is not a side note. He is the whole story, and he deserves a heart that remembers that, even in prayer. Come closer, baby. Sit down on the porch of your soul and be still for a while. Let the wind of truth wrap around you. Let the sun of understanding warm your bones. I've got something important to tell you. Something that might shake your slumbering spirit awake. Something holy, ancient, and alive. When you pray right, God moves. Now don't you go thinking prayer is just words falling into the air like scattered leaves on an autumn breeze. No, my love, prayer is a key. Prayer is thunder wrapped in silk. Prayer is the breath of the soul reaching back to its maker. And when it's offered in truth, with reverence, with fire, it shakes heaven and causes angels to stand at attention. But there is a difference. Oh yes, a difference. Between a prayer said and a prayer felt. Between a routine whisper and a soul's cry. Between a sleepy murmur under the covers and a bold declaration that the God of all creation is being summoned into the middle of your situation. You see, God doesn't just listen to language. He listens to longing. He hears hunger. He smells the incense of sincerity rising from the heart of a man or woman who has come not just to talk, but to touch the hem of his garment. And when that kind of prayer is prayed, something shifts. Child, the earth may look still, but something in the spirit realm begins to stir. Mountains begin to tremble. Chains begin to rattle. Doors that were sealed shut begin to creak open at the hinges. All because one faithful soul decided to pray with everything they had. When you pray right, not fancy, not perfect, not with the words of theologians or the voice of a poet, but right with your whole self, with your tears and your truth, with your worship and your weakness, then God moves. He does not move because you have twisted his arm. He does not move because you've recited a formula. He moves because you have made room. Let me say that again for the ones in the back. Prayer that moves God is prayer that makes room. You make room when you stop rushing. You make room when you silence the distractions. You make room when you kneel, not just with your body but with your pride. You make room when you open your hands and say, "Not my will, but yours be done." Now, let me bring it close and make it plain. You cannot expect God to move mightily when you come to Him halfway, half awake, half listening, half-hearted, half believing. You must bring your full self to the altar. Whether that self is strong or trembling, bold or broken, bring it all. He wants the whole of you. He wants the honest you. Because real prayer is not a performance. It's not for the ears of people. It's not for the validation of men. It's for the audience of one. And that one is holy. When Elijah prayed, he didn't offer empty words. He cried out with passion, calling down fire from heaven, and God responded. When Paul and Silas prayed in prison, they didn't whisper in fear. They lifted up their voices in songs and supplications, and the prison shook. Chains fell. Doors flew open. Why? Because their prayer wasn't passive. It was a weapon forged in the furnace of faith. God doesn't move for casual prayers. He moves for courageous ones. Prayers that dare to believe He still parts seas. Prayers that expect Him to heal, to restore, to break through. Prayers that are not pretty, but powerful. And that, my beloved, is why posture matters too. Because when your body aligns with your spirit, when your knees touch the floor and your head bows low, your whole being is shouting to heaven, "I honor you, Lord. I believe in your power. I trust you." You see, when a soul stands before God with reverence, with sincerity, and with expectancy, the heavens don't stay silent. No, they answer. Not always in the ways we expect. Not always on our timing. But they answer. Sometimes He sends peace so thick it settles like a blanket across your chest. Sometimes He shifts something deep inside you before He shifts the world around you. Sometimes He waits, not because He hasn't heard, but because He's teaching you how to walk by faith and not by sight. But, my child, always He moves. And when He moves, it might not make headlines, but it will change lives. Your prayer can stop a storm in someone else's life. Your prayer can stir conviction in a prodigal heart. Your prayer can build a bridge where there was only a chasm. So don't think for 1 second that your words don't matter. Don't believe the lie that your whisper is too small. God hears the cry of the widow, the groan of the prisoner, the song of the saint, and the broken hallelujah of the weary. What He's looking for is not volume, it's truth. Not length, it's love. Not tradition, it's trust. You don't need fancy words. You don't need to quote 10 scriptures in a row. All you need is an honest heart and a soul that says, "Lord, I'm here. And I know you're listening." That's where the power is. That's where the chains break. That's where the healing begins. That's where the fire falls. So pray with reverence, not routine. Pray with presence, not just posture. Pray with expectancy, not just emotion. Because the moment you decide to pray like you believe God still answers, child, heaven leans in. The angels take notice. Demons back up. And the Spirit begins to move in places your feet have never even walked. That's the power of praying right. So tonight or tomorrow, or whenever your soul needs to reach out, don't let it be passive. Don't let it be careless. Let it be real. Let it be bold. Let it be full. And then stand back. Because when God moves in response to a righteous, reverent, surrendered prayer, the world may not see it, but your soul will never be the same again.